Cinematologist Movie Reviews, diagnosing cinema one movie at a time. Today we look at The Purge: An Election Year, the third installment of the popular Platinum Dunes franchise, which comes in a real American election year, has definitely got a lot of controversy behind it, especially with all the debacle going on around the 2016 American election. So, will this film be a good commentary on what's to come with a real election year, with some subversive, bloody, and brutal social commentary, or is this a film worth diagnosing? Well, the first thing we need to compliment are the likable performances in this film. Yeah, some likable performances. These characters don't have a lot of leeway or meat to their characters, but the actors do a pretty good job in establishing good charisma and good energy in these characters, especially Michael T. Williamson, who you may know as Bubba from Forrest Gump. I found him to actually have one of the most charismatic and energetic performances in this film, and even though his character doesn't have a lot of depth, good moments, or a lot of great dialogue to work with, Michael T. Williamson puts in one of the more memorable performances in this film. But that's not to say the characters that are familiar faces or the new characters do a bad job. The actors do a pretty good job in giving life to these characters that have pretty simplistic personalities, so that will be a credit and proper nutrient to this film. The next thing we need to talk about is the blood spattering action. If you're a fan of this series, you know the series is completely fine with showing you the most brutal and bloody action to bring to the screen to show its provocative messages of extremism and the demons inside every American person's soul. And this film definitely ups the ante in some standards. While having most of the same from the previous two films, there's a couple little gags here and there that are implemented into this film to show the bloody and psychotic nature that lies deep within the psyche of many individuals that may live next door. And for the most part, this does a good job. There's definitely some set pieces that will win over fans of the first two films, and there were a couple that actually had me chuckling or kind of cheering silently because, let's face it, even if it's brutal and gory, sometimes it does work to get the audience invested in the film and to get them into the just crazy and maniacal action going on this terrible night of chaos and mayhem. And the last compliment we're going to give to this film is actually a robust marketing campaign. If any of you have seen any of the television ads or TV spots over the last several weeks chronicling the lead up to this movie, you actually have to admit they've done a really good job with the election theme. It shows this whole campaign of people that have purged and how it's good for America and how it's good for the economy, but it's actually quite impressive how they've convinced us to come see this movie on a third go. And the first movie's being a bit of the same each time, this one still put us in the seats, and it's quite impressive how they actually let us in with a great marketing campaign with a lot of charisma and gusto, especially with the election season in America coming up. But with that said, it looks like this film does have some side effects, so why don't we take a look at those? The first one we need to talk about is the problematic pacing. Now, this movie picks up pretty quickly actually, and goes into the action quite swiftly. We see the purge and we see everything going into it and we get right into the action. The problem is we get our fix quite early a little bit with all these crazy characters and all this crazy action and blood and gore, and we see it all very quickly that towards the end of the second act it begins to sag a little bit, and everything from there is just some extra fluff. And because of that, the film kind of droops and sags and drags along and feels a little bit elongated, and that makes the pace seem like this film is a little bit longer than it actually is, and I found that to really be a bit too bearing on the movie's quality. And the last criticism that is unfortunately the biggest problem is the ham-fisted subtext. These films are going out to make a serious point about classism and class warfare and whatnot, and with a lot of the ham-fisted techniques that they give to preaching those kinds of themes, it's really not useful for us to be hit over the head time and time again with the same kind of unconvincing, unrealistic, and really hammy dialogue that comes between some of the characters. This isn't when characters are out in the streets murdering people insanely. This is when people are sitting down talking to each other about the politics and the motivations behind these kinds of crimes. And it really takes us out of the whole experience because it just feels so forced and staged. Usually when you want to make a movie with some subversive contextual themes, you want to leave it at the subconscious level. And when it's thrown in your face and spelled out, it feels like a little bit of an insult to the intelligence of the audience. So that's a big discredit to this film, and this has happened in every film of the series thus far. So with the Purge election year, we move on to the prognosis. Is this a film that can rise above its predecessors and stand out in an election year, or is it a film we shall diagnose? Well, honestly, while this film does fall into the same cliches and flaws of the original films with the ham-fisted context and all that stuff, it's actually still pretty entertaining and maybe stronger than the first film at least, if not strong as the second film. This one is definitely entertaining. It's got a lot of bloody manic fun for fans of the series to enjoy, and for anybody who has a twisted sense of humor or excitement to enjoy as well. The themes are there for the people that don't want to think too much about them, and if they interest you, then this movie is definitely up your alley. And if they interest you and you want them a little more subconscious, this will disappoint you. But I would say this is definitely entertaining on a standard of just casual entertainment. But with that said, I'm going to deem this movie optional, with some side effects of some high sodium intake because of all the ham-fisted and hammy dialogue that forces some of the context of these films. But the real question is, what did you guys think? What was your opinion on the Purge film, on Purge election year, and what was your favorite film of the Purge series? And did this one do anything for you? And with that said, why don't you guys also tune in and subscribe to my Facebook page, which is the Cinematologist Movie Reviews. I can give you instant links on when new videos are uploaded. You can get all the exclusive updates right from that Facebook page. But open the discussion. Until next time, I'm the Cinematologist diagnosing cinema, one movie at a time. Thank you for watching.